What is up? GoodMicWork back at you with your Raw and SmackDown review for May 22nd and May 23rd. And honestly, that's all I'm really going to talk about in this episode. There's not a whole lot of other wrestling news going on right now. There might be a couple of small tidbits here or there that I might mention, but for the most part, I'm just going to give my overall opinions of Raw and SmackDown and how I feel about some of the current storylines, in particular, Jinder Mahal becoming the WWE champion at Backlash last Sunday. So, before we get started, I do want to make an announcement to all of you that don't know. My WrestleMania Memories commentary, the big one that I released last year that was taken down like last October or November by WWE, is back up. I have re-uploaded that thing, replaced all of the video footage with pictures, added WrestleMania 32 and 33 to the end of it, and it is now 6.5 hours long. So just bear with me as I mention this to all of you in the next few videos. I just want to get the word out there that is back up. You can now go back and enjoy that commentary. It's just not as watchable as it used to be with the video footage. So the link is up there in the top right-hand corner if you want to check it out. All of my re-uploads are done as well. All those videos that got taken down that I've been slowly re-uploading to you, those are pretty much done. I might have one more that I forgot to do, but I'm going to just kind of suspend those re-uploads right now. If there's one or two more floating around there that I need to get up, I'll do that in the future. But for right now, I'm going to stop re-uploading those because I want to move on to my next project, which is a Q&A. And I'll have that Q&A to you in the first week or two of June is my plan. So if you want to submit a question for that, please send it to goodmicwork@gmail.com. Tell me your name and where you're from, and it is email only. It's pointless to leave it in the comments. Don't tweet me because I don't answer those questions. It's only email. So that'll be my next special episode that I'll be giving to you. Will be a Q&A. And then after that, maybe I'll try to move on and do another pay-per-view review or a DVD review or something like that. So I'm going to play the rest of this summer by ear. So as far as tonight goes, let's jump right into this and talk about Raw first. Raw was not that great of a show. There was a couple of very interesting things that I thought happened on Raw, but for the most part, I thought the response was negative from all of you. I was home live tweeting. It was one of those weeks where I was struggling to pay attention. I was trying my hardest, but I found myself being distracted. I really wasn't even jotting down any notes. Normally during Raw, I type out all the results so I don't have to do it on Wednesday when I do my Raw and SmackDown reviews. So I kind of just make all my notes as I go, but I didn't even feel like doing that. So I didn't really put my run sheet together until today. Raw was just not interesting enough to me to where I was jotting down a whole bunch of notes and shit about it. So the show opens up with a Bray Wyatt promo. He comes out and starts spewing his typical shit. He's then interrupted by Roman Reigns, who comes out and starts spewing his typical shit, although his typical shit is a lot worse than Bray's typical shit. And luckily, Kurt Angle comes out to save the whole damn thing and just makes a match between the two of them that opens up Raw. So, as if we haven't seen that match enough times in the past, but we get it to open Raw. Roman Reigns wound up winning via disqualification, which I was surprised. I had a feeling because I don't think Roman Reigns is going to win the 5-way at Extreme Rules. I figured he would probably win every match he's in up until then. We saw him beat Finn Balor last week, and I had some opinions on that, and I'll have some more opinions on Finn Balor here in just a little bit. And then this week, he's facing Bray Wyatt, and I'm like, well, shit, he's going to spear and pin Bray Wyatt too, because he's probably not going to win the 5-way, which means WWE is going to have him win everything else. But instead of pinning and destroying Bray, they went with a DQ when Samoa Joe just interrupts in the middle of the match. His music starts playing, comes out, puts Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt in the coquina clutch, and then Seth joins the fray as well, and they all start fighting and brawling, and the whole match is a clusterfuck. Well, backstage after the commercial break, Kurt Angle decides to make a tag team match out of the whole thing and says, none of you guys are done for the night. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, I'm going to force you to coexist, and you're going to have to take on Bray Wyatt and Samoa Joe, and I'm going to force them to coexist in a tag team main event. And the match was okay. I mean, it was good, but it was just kind of funny that all these guys are going to be facing each other. SmackDown would do the exact same thing on their show, and to me, it's just, come on, WWE, be a little bit more creative with the things you make these guys do leading up to their match. It's just the same old shit. Anytime you have a big multi-man match on a pay-per-view, anytime, you always start making tag matches between the participants, and it just gets old. I mean, I know it makes sense in some cases to put everybody together and have them involved in matches and storylines together to build the match week by week, but so many years have gone by now of this stuff, it's just getting a little bit old. But the main event itself, as far as the tag team match, it wasn't horrible, and I like the finish. Samoa Joe chokes out Seth Rollins for the win. Seth passes out, and Samoa Joe and Bray win the tag team match to close the show, and now we have, I think, one more week until we get to Extreme Rules. So next week will be the go-home show, and I'll be up next week as well with full Extreme Rules predictions. But, you know, as it stands right now, I'm not expecting any of those guys in that main event of Raw to win the Fatal 5-Way. I'm kind of going with Finn Balor. And that was another big thing that happened on Raw that I was quite interested in, and that's Finn Balor's promo. And he came out and basically says he's going to win. He never lost the Universal title to begin with. He should be the rightful owner of that belt, and if anybody deserves a shot, it's him. Paul Heyman shows up on Raw, completely unannounced, very surprising. The crowd kind of even stood up like, oh shit, this might be interesting, because Paul Heyman and Finn Balor in the ring together, and they're teasing this Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar match, and Finn is the guy I'm going with. I really hope he wins this Fatal 5-Way at Extreme Rules, and right now he's kind of the favorite. A lot of the fans in the internet are saying that he's going to be the guy to win this, and I hope so. And Paul Heyman comes out there and shows him nothing but respect. Says that he respects his ability, respects what he's done, and is really intrigued by the thought of a Brock Lesnar versus Finn Balor match, as am I. The two of them even shake hands at the end of it, and Finn Balor, says, I appreciate the respect, but, if I face Brock Lesnar, he's going down, and I'll be the new Universal Champion one way or the other. So that match is incredibly intriguing, and I don't know what seeds they're trying to plant here. I don't know if they're planting the seeds for a Brock Lesnar and Finn Balor match. Maybe this was a test or a tease. Hey, when Paul Heyman comes out to confront Finn Balor, we're going to gauge the crowd and see how they react to it. And if they're doing a lot of oohing and aahing, that might be the match we want to go with it at Great Balls of Fire. And next week, somebody else might be in the ring. Maybe Seth Rollins, and Paul Heyman will interrupt him. And they might do the same thing. I don't know. They could even be planting the seed for Finn Balor to become a Paul Heyman guy in the future. Maybe Finn's going to go heel at some point. I hope not. His entrance and presentation is so awesome. He's not a guy I think they need to turn heel, at least right now. But he could always reform the Balor Club at some point, and Paul Heyman could be involved in that. So they could be either teasing Finn versus Brock, or they could be teasing an alliance between Finn and Paul Heyman sometime in the future for whatever reason. And it's also worth noting, right after this promo, Finn Balor beat Carl Anderson in a one-on-one match. So Finn Balor's back on track, back to his winning ways after the loss to Roman Reigns last week. And they're really starting to make you think that Finn versus Brock is what we're going to get at Great Balls of Fire. And I would love to see that. And I hope nobody misunderstood some of the things I said about Finn Balor versus Brock before. I kind of questioned whether or not a Finn versus Brock match would be believable just due to the size difference. But the size difference really doesn't bother me that much. And I hope you guys don't think that it does, because I've also said time and time and time again that Brock Lesnar, with his style now, the way we see him in the ring now, I think he has much better matches with guys half his size. His matches with Undertaker and Triple H and Goldberg, they're not much to look at. You put him in the ring with CM Punk, you put him in the ring with Seth Rollins, or maybe even a Dean Ambrose, then magic happens. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do go with Finn Balor, and that match can be so good, and that's what I think Brock needs right now. He's starting, the fans still love Brock, they still respect him, but much like Goldberg, the way he was overstaying his welcome a little bit, with Brock Lesnar never defending the title and only showing up on Raw a couple of times a year, the last thing Brock Lesnar needs is to start having really shitty matches. Because if that happens, the fans are going to turn on him hard. And, if Brock can go out there and tear the house down at Great Balls of Fire with Finn Balor, that can not only get Balor over huge, but it can also make the fans excited to see Brock Lesnar matches again. So I think WWE really needs to go with Finn Balor or Seth, although we've seen Seth and Brock Lesnar before. Seth and Joe have still got their thing going on, so I have a feeling maybe their blow-off will be at Great Balls of Fire, and Finn will wind up working with Brock. Samoa Joe is another guy rumored to be a future opponent for Brock, and I think that would be awesome, and I'd like to see that, but, Joe's a beefier guy, and right now I just think Brock should be in the ring with somebody smaller, somebody that can fly and bump around for him and make the match good and exciting and surprising, and who knows, man. Finn Balor, I couldn't see him beating Brock. I just can't see it happening, but part of me wonders if maybe he could. Great Balls of Fire is such a shitty place for Finn Balor to be launched. You gotta think, when you're going to beat Brock again, when you're gonna beat him clean, it would have to be at a little bit bigger of a pay-per-view than Great Balls of Fire. This should be something that they're going to hold off until SummerSlam. And as much as I would love to see Finn Balor win back the Universal title and somehow figure out a way to beat Brock Lesnar, I don't know if July is the pay-per-view that should happen. That should be a SummerSlam match. So there's all sorts of things they could do at Extreme Rules. Even though I'm rooting for Finn Balor and I'm kind of in the back of my mind picking him to win, maybe they hold off Finn Balor. Maybe they want Finn Balor to come full circle. Maybe Finn Balor eventually wins the title at SummerSlam just like he did last year. That would be an incredible story. But there's a couple of other guys out there that you have to wonder what their plans are for the world title, namely Roman Reigns and, of course, Braun Strowman. So if Strowman comes back and he gets involved soon at Extreme Rules or at Great Balls of Fire and he's back in the mix, then he's probably going to get the title shot against Brock at SummerSlam. So, I want to see Finn in the ring with Brock, and I want to see Finn win the belt back. It's just hard for me to see them doing that considering all the other plans that they've got in the back of their mind. But I also think that there's a chance he can have that upset. I mean, Finn Balor, you can tell that the WWE is going to make him huge. I mean, he's got a great presentation. I love his entrance music, probably my favorite music in the company, and they've got great entrance themes right now, probably the best music I can remember since like the 90s when we were having great themes like Undertaker and Goldust and Bret Hart and Razor Ramon and Diesel and all those awesome themes back then. This kind of reminds me of those times to where a lot of their characters' theme songs are very catchy and very good, and they fit their characters so well. And Finn Balor has such an amazing entrance. He just seems to be somebody that WWE really wants to have be a focal point of their company in the future. And that's really nice to see considering where Finn came from, his background, his size, even his look. When he's not the Demon, he's pretty plain Jane looking, but he's still over his shit. And speaking of the Demon, I like the fact that WWE isn't rushing the Demon back. And I guess we're probably going to see the Demon at Extreme Rules, but maybe not. Maybe we won't see him until he gets that title match, if he does in fact win the Fatal 5-Way. But I like the fact that they're not rushing that, and when it finally does happen and Finn comes out as the Demon, it'll be very special and it'll be an attraction, and that's the kind of things you want and gets fans interested and, keeps people talking, I guess. But right now, I've got really high hopes for Finn Balor in the future, despite the fact that he lost to Roman Reigns last week. I think in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to matter too much. And by the way, speaking of everybody involved, I did read on WWE.com. I can't remember if this announcement was made on Raw or not. I don't think it was, but I guess Kurt Angle has made a couple of matches for next week on Raw. We're going to get a triple threat between Finn Balor, Bray Wyatt, and Samoa Joe. And Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns are going to be working one-on-one. So they're taking all 5 guys and shaking it up and putting them in different matches. So we're going to get Seth versus Roman again. A couple of guys that are both baby faces but don't totally get along, and they were teasing that on Raw. So they're going to go one-on-one next week, and that won't be a horrible match. Yeah, we've seen it a bunch of times, but 2 former Shield members like that going one-on-one, I ain't complaining. Also on Raw, we saw the debut of Elias Sampson. He finally had a match. After Kurt Angle announces that Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns are going to be a tag team, they walk away and the Drifter comes strolling through with his guitar, and Kurt Angle says, look, you've been doing this shit every week for the past couple of months. You're trying to get my attention. Well, you have my attention now, and you haven't even had a match yet here on Raw. So how about tonight you're going to take on Dean Ambrose? So Elias Sampson makes his debut taking on Dean Ambrose. The Miz is on commentary. They open it up with him sitting in the ring playing the guitar and singing. And it's funny, the song that he's playing on the guitar sounds a lot like Pink Floyd. It's almost a hybrid of Welcome to the Machine and Wish You Were Here. Unfortunately, his singing sucks. He was singing about Grand Rapids or whatever, and I think that's going to be a theme, I guess. I think when he comes out to the ring and sings some song, it'll be relevant to the city that he's in or whatever. But, I like him playing the guitar, but I'm not a big fan of him singing. I think the rock concerts are much more entertaining. I think Kurt Angle singing Jimmy Crack Corn is much more enjoyable and entertaining than Elias singing. But I still like the Drifter gimmick. I like the way he kind of came on TV. I was still hoping they would hold him off a little bit longer and just keep adding to the mystique, because up until now, you really didn't know what his motivation was. He's just walking around. He's not doing anything. You don't even know if he's a heel or a babyface. I mean, they were literally giving you nothing on the guy. So I would have liked to see that continue a little bit longer. And once they put him in the ring with Ambrose, I was like, oh shit, I hope he doesn't lose. But he didn't. Luckily, with the Miz on commentary, he came in the ring and he purposely attacked Elias Sampson, which got Dean Ambrose disqualified. So pretty smart move by the Miz, because of course, those 2 guys are working for the IC title at Extreme Rules with the stipulation that if Dean Ambrose gets DQ'd, he loses the title. So nice little head games there by the Miz. Decent match between Elias and Dean. It went a few minutes and it wasn't cut too short, and they didn't beat Elias, which was good. He actually won via DQ, so it wasn't the worst debut in the world, but I was kind of hoping they would make us wait a little bit longer before they put him in the ring and started having him talk and, expose him for what kind of worker and character he is. I just wanted that to take a little bit longer to happen, but whatever. He's on the roster now. I like him. He's a big boy. He's got a good look. The gimmick could get over if they keep playing with it a little bit more. So I've got hope for the Drifter character on Raw. Hopefully it will never become a joke or a jobber, or, be a kickoff match type of guy. I want this guy to do some things. So we'll have to see how they push Elias going forward. Another big match that took place was Matt Hardy taking on Sheamus. So every single week, it seems like, since WrestleMania, you're getting a Hardy Boy versus Sheamus and Cesaro, like literally every week. And I know they've already done this match with Matt and Sheamus at least once, and Matt won again. So the Hardy Boys are completely undefeated. I don't know what their record is on house shows, but on television, they've won everything, it seems like, especially against Cesaro and Sheamus. So since Matt beat Sheamus, the stipulation in this match was the winner gets to name the stipulation at Extreme Rules. So with Matt winning, a lot of people were thinking ladder match. I never thought it was going to be a ladder match because they just did that. But the one thing I was not expecting was for Matt to announce a cage match. So not my favorite stipulation. I was hoping they would be a little bit more creative with it, but who knows? You know, the cage match might turn out to be good. I'm just in general not a fan of cage matches anymore. I really don't know why. It's just something that I never get too excited about whenever they try to use a match like this as a blow-off. You know, it just doesn't feel that special anymore because we've seen so damn many cage matches. But, you know, whatever. Matt and Jeff are going to be taking on Sheamus and Cesaro in a cage. And this might be a good chance for Sheamus and Cesaro to win back the belts. They can come up with some sort of weird-ass way to win this. I mean, otherwise, what's the point of having this match? What's the point of having Matt and Jeff beat Sheamus and Cesaro and everybody else at WrestleMania for the titles, and then win all of their rematches against Sheamus and Cesaro and beat them in every one-on-one match that they've had, and then go into Extreme Rules and beat them again in a cage match? Like, what the fuck? So at some point, the Hardys need to go down. I love Sheamus and Cesaro. I think they're a great team. I like their look. I like their chemistry. I like everything about them. I've said that time and time again. So I would like to see them regain the belts at Extreme Rules some way, shape, or form, escaping the cage or doing something to win in a creative way. And I'm sure Jeff will be diving off of the top of that cage. As a matter of fact, what pay-per-view was it that he, you know, in kayfabe kind of lost the match for his team? You know, he was up on top of the cage. Shit, was that the show I was at? I think it was. I was actually at Survivor Series 2001 in Charlotte. Or was it Greensboro? It was fucking one of those two cities. And I remember a cage match with Hardys and the Dudleys or something like that, and Jeff was up on the top, and then he dove off and landed through two tables after missing a swanton, allowing the opponents to win. So that's happened before. That could be a finish they could do here, especially if they ever want to make Matt and Jeff broken. There's still no word on whether or not that's ever going to happen. It's not looking likely. There was some more drama with some TNA and Anthem executives releasing some documentation about the gimmick and their communication with the Hardy Boys lawyers and WWE and all of that, and it just seems like the whole damn thing's a mess. Rebby, of course, is extremely vocal on Twitter about it. If you want any updates on this situation, I would like to direct you to Mrs. Hardy's Twitter page. She is an absolute gem on that website. I love her. So if you want to hear all the latest, Rebby will let you know about it over there. That I promise you. But unfortunately, it looks like the broken gimmicks are not going to be happening anytime soon. But if they were able to use the broken gimmicks, I think losing the title would be a good way to initiate that transformation between the Hardys, or at least Matt anyway, into that broken character. I mean, he's still doing the little nuances and he's still teasing it just a little bit, so I don't think all hope is lost. If there was no chance in hell that the WWE will ever get their hands on this gimmick, I think they would tell Matt to stop doing it and stop teasing the fans. Otherwise, they're going to be disappointed. So I still have hope, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this is all worked out in the future. But at least for right now, I think we need to all abandon the thought that the broken Hardys might be in the WWE one day. It's not looking likely. We also saw Austin Aries beat Tony Nese via submission with the last chancery. Neville was out there on the outside of the ring watching, and he got pissed after the match and put Tony Nese in his finisher as well, the Rings of Saturn, after the match. Big stare down between him and Austin Aries in the aisleway and in the ring. And of course, at Extreme Rules, these two are going to be facing each other in a submission match. Now, this is a stipulation that I like. I hope, considering how long this feud has been going on, I mean, these guys worked the pre-show at WrestleMania. I mean, they've been working together a lot, Aries and Neville, so the WWE really needs to give this match some time on the pay-per-view, because I think this could be a show stealer. I'm really intrigued to watch these guys battle it out in a submission match, because you don't see submission stuff very often in cruiserweight wrestling. It's suicide dives and head scissors and moonsaults. It's generally not submission mat wrestling, and you're going to get some of that out of these guys. Yeah, they can fly around there too, but their styles, I mean, I love Neville. Even though he's a cruiserweight, he just beats the fuck out of everybody. And Austin Aries is an incredibly good mat technician, so I have really high hopes for this match. I think they're going to really dazzle a lot of people, and I hope that it steals the show. I truly hope that it does. I want Neville and Aries to be match of the night at Extreme Rules. We also saw Enzo getting attacked backstage by a mystery man or mystery men. Or mystery women, I don't know. Apparently he got attacked when no one was around. Cass found him laid out, and he goes and gets help or whatever. And they're trying to revive Enzo, and Cass tells Kurt Angle, you better find who did this before I do. And that immediately kind of teases that Cass is the one that did it himself. And it reminds me of Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Remember when Shawn got thrown through the car window and then Triple H is like, I'm going to find out who did this. And then it turns out that it was him in the end and he turned heel and the whole thing. So it kind of reminds me of that. And I've been calling the Cass heel turn ever since they debuted. The day that I saw the two of them on TV and you see how big Cass is and how much potential he has, you got to think to yourself, at some point they're going to split this team up and have Cass go singles. Or if they don't split the team up, Enzo might have to transition into more of a managerial role and have Cass go babyface as a singles. The other big rumor is that it could be the Revival. The Revival have been out for some time. Was it Dash? I forgot which one got their jaw broken, but that was back in April and they were talking, 8 weeks-ish recovery for that. So it's about time for them to return to TV. And as a matter of fact, if you watch Raw, it was during a promo. I think it was Sasha Banks' promo. In the background, you saw two guys walking into view and then disappearing behind a hallway. And it could have been the Revival. And I'll tell you, it's little subtle things like that I like in WWE. So it could have very well been the Revival who attacked Enzo, and that can be their return program when they come back. And Revival can work with Enzo and Cass and beat them and get back on track in the tag team division on Raw and start making some waves. So at this point, I think it could go either way, but if you guys have any other ideas who may have attacked Enzo, please let me know. It could be Rikishi. That's possible, so don't rule out Rikishi either. Oh, the good old days when Rikishi used to try to murder people. Speaking of the good old days, Goldust. Oh my God. They're going to give him something to do. They're going to give him a little push. I don't know how big it'll be. I don't know how important it's going to be or how seriously the WWE is going to take it. But of course, we saw him turn on R-Truth last week. And then this week, we got that old school Goldust promo. I swear we haven't seen one of these in 20 years. And it was awesome. And he was in the director's chair and it was lit with gold. And, and he's talking about how the golden age has arrived again and it's his movie and it's his script and all this shit. So it looks like they could be gearing up for a final run for Goldust. I mean, I'm fine with guys wrestling as long as they can go, and Goldust can still work in there. And on top of that, he's timeless. He's ageless. Because of his character and look, that face paint conceals how old he is. He looks the exact same now than he did in 1999 or 98 or 96 or whatever. That gold face paint really hides his age. And he's always had the same body type. He's always been very tall and slim and slender, but never really had a whole lot of muscular definition to him. So no matter how old Goldust gets, he looks the same age as he did 20 years ago. So that's one of the things I've always liked about that character is you just don't see the age progression in somebody like him. But at the same time, he's very old now and he should start thinking about hanging up the boots. And I would love to see Dusty's son, somebody that has a ton of wrestling knowledge in his brain, stick around in WWE, past his in-ring career, be an agent, be a backstage guy, work at the Performance Center, something like that. I think Goldust has a ton of knowledge to give. Hell, maybe they could even put him in NXT in the role that his dad had. What Dusty did there, working with those kids, maybe Dustin can take over that role if he has interest in that. I have no idea about Dustin's personal life, what he wants to do. He might want to just completely distance himself from wrestling altogether, but I think he's a guy that could stay employed in the WWE for many years to come and pass along his knowledge. And now it looks like if his in-ring days are coming to an end, this could be a final run for him, and I hope they do something. I mentioned last week that they should put the Intercontinental title on him, just for old time's sake, just for shits and giggles. I don't think it would harm the Intercontinental title at all. Goldust is a legend. Giving him the Intercontinental title is the least you guys should do for him. So I don't know which direction they're going to go, if this is going to be a long push, short push. If I'm wrong about him retiring, maybe he has no intention of retiring at all, and WWE has just decided to do something with Goldust since they have him there. I don't even know what the purpose of his push is, but given his age and how long he's been around, you would think Dustin at some point would want to retire, and if he can do that on TV, and if he can do that in a final run and have a few great moments and put somebody over on his way out, that's the way I would like to see Goldust go out. So I'm hoping that this push is because this is going to be his final run. Goldust to me has always been an extremely underrated performer. Go back and watch some of his matches. When he first came in as Goldust and the Goldust character, he was having great matches with all sorts of guys. Shawn Michaels. He had great matches with Steve Austin, The Undertaker, lots of great guys. And then even prior to that, as Dustin Rhodes in WCW, he was great. They called him the Natural because he was. He was very good in there. Very much like Barry Windham, even a similar look and similar wrestling style. But he could tell great stories in the ring and he could go for an hour, just like his dad could. He wrestled in multiple Broadways in WCW during various feuds back then. So Dustin is just a hell of a hand and just a great talent, and I wish him and this current push all the best. I hope it works out. Those were all the major things that took place on Raw. The only other things we had was Kalisto beating Apollo Crews and that whole situation with the Titus brand, whatever there. Akira Tozawa beat Daivari. Now, somebody mentioned to me on Twitter that he looks like, or maybe I read a tweet, that he looks like Mr. Peepers from Saturday Night Live. He was that monkey character that Chris Kattan played back in the 2000s. And as a matter of fact, The Rock, during one of his first SNL appearances, did a skit with Mr. Peepers. But the way Akira does that bark or that scream or whatever the hell it is, it does resemble Mr. Peepers. It actually does. So I got a chuckle out of that. We saw Alexa Bliss beat Mickie James in a one-on-one match. After the match, Alexa goes out to the ring to grab a kendo stick and starts wailing away on Mickie. And Bayley runs down to make the save, gets the kendo stick away from Alexa, and of course Alexa retreats and goes off to the back. So, you know, they've got the kendo stick in a pole match at Extreme Rules. Not my favorite stipulation, but whatever there. And we also saw Sasha Banks getting her victory back over Alicia Fox by beating her. And Alicia had Noam Dar with her, and there's still talk that maybe Sasha's going to go heel sometime in the future, and that might be what they're setting up here. I really don't know, and I haven't been paying that much attention to the women's division on Raw. So overall, Raw wasn't a horrible show, but it really wasn't anything special either. Moving on to SmackDown. SmackDown got a little bit better response. More people, I think, enjoyed SmackDown than Raw. And I did like this show. There was some good stuff on here and some good matches. And incidentally, I do want to mention that SmackDown, of course, aired on the 18-year anniversary of Owen Hart's passing. Of course, on May 23rd, 1999, Owen Hart died at Over the Edge. And it's still one of the most haunting things in wrestling, and I'm still not over it. It's been 18 years, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And as a matter of fact, that was my final re-upload. That link is up in the top right-hand corner there as well. I released a small tribute to Owen Hart, just some random thoughts on his career, for episode 200, 3 years ago. My 200th episode happened to fall on the 15-year anniversary of his death. And that was one of the videos that was taken down by WWE a few months ago because I did have some video footage in there. So I actually re-uploaded that commentary along with some bonus thoughts at the beginning and even some hotline reports from the night of and the day after he died. So that's up there if you want to take a look, and that will be my final re-upload, like I said, for a while. But long live Owen Hart, 18 years. It's amazing that it's been that long. So we miss you, King of Hearts. We miss you. SmackDown opened up with Shane McMahon making a couple of announcements. The first announcement that he made is that Randy Orton will be invoking his rematch clause at the Money in the Bank, and he'll face Jinder Mahal for the WWE title in the main event. So that's the big announcement there. I'll talk more about Jinder here in just a couple of minutes. And he also announced the Money in the Bank ladder match, and he announced all the competitors. So they didn't go through any bullshit here. Nobody had to qualify for it or anything like that. He announced 5 guys, I believe. It's AJ Styles, Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin, Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Kevin Owens. So that's 6 guys, not 5. And he also set up a tag team match for later that night. Dolph Ziggler and Kevin Owens taking on AJ and Shinsuke in a tag team main event. So they essentially did the same thing with their multi-man match that Raw did with their multi-man match. So there's not a whole lot of differences in these shows, really, when you look at it. But when you look at the competitors in this thing, they have a lot of options here. Now, I kind of think that AJ Styles and Kevin Owens are going to cancel each other out. I don't think they're done working for the U.S. title. They have a lot of unresolved issues still. So I have a feeling that they're going to continue to work throughout the summer and probably have a blow-off at SummerSlam would be my guess. So at least for right now, I'm going to rule them out. I might change. I would love to see AJ Styles win it. I would love to see Kevin Owens win it. Kevin Owens holding that briefcase would be entertaining as hell. But right now, I might have to put my money on Baron Corbin because, you know, I kind of like it when they take a guy that hasn't really been established yet and give him the briefcase, the way they did with CM Punk, the way they did with Kennedy, although he lost the briefcase, the way they did with Jack Swagger. You know, take a guy that's kind of upper to mid-card and elevate him to the top of the card by having him win the briefcase. So right now, Baron Corbin actually seems like the most likely option here. Sami Zayn would be another guy, but then you have to decide, do you want a heel holding the briefcase or do you want to have a babyface holding the briefcase? They really need to think about that. They need to think about who the more entertaining briefcase holder would be. And as much as I would love to have Shinsuke Nakamura win this match, I don't know if he's the guy WWE would want with that briefcase teasing a cash-in. And I also think that this year they're going to wait on the cash-in. Don't forget, we got no Money in the Bank last year. We didn't have any fun with that. We didn't have any false cash-ins or teases or suspense or anything like that. Dean Ambrose came out and cashed that shit in. in the very same night that he won it. So this year, I think the WWE is going to hold it off. I think whoever wins the Money in the Bank needs to cash it in at Survivor Series. That's probably when it needs to happen. Not SummerSlam, hold it off for a little bit, have them tease it for weeks on TV, and then finally at Survivor Series, book something to where it still turns out to be a surprise and the fans didn't see it coming. You know, I would even like to see somebody take the briefcase and do what Kennedy did. Remember when Kennedy won it and he announced like a whole year in advance that he's going to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase at the next year's WrestleMania in the main event? That way he guarantees himself a main event of WrestleMania. I think they should do that one time where the winner says, hey, I'm going to cash this in next year at WrestleMania, but then surprise everybody and cash it in early at Survivor Series just to throw the fans off or whatever. So, you know, I think they need to hold off the cash in this year for a little while and let the fans have this to enjoy and have the drama and suspense building up to the cash in. When's it going to happen? Every single pay-per-view. You can speculate if the briefcase holder is going to cash it in, and you can do that 3 or 4 times, 5 times, 6 times before he actually cashes it in. So right now, I think early money is on Baron Corbin. I mean, WWE needs to make stars. They're trying to do that, obviously, with Jinder Mahal being the WWE champion now. So within the next year, if Baron Corbin gets elevated to the main event and gets a belt as well, you know, that just makes more stars for SmackDown. So I guess in the end, it's something that you can't really complain about. And at this point, I don't even really know who I would prefer. I kind of think it's going to be Corbin, but like I said, Owens would make the most entertaining briefcase holder because he would be great with that briefcase. But he's already the U.S. champion. He's already got his thing going on with AJ. I don't know if they'd give him the briefcase or not. Then he's got the U.S. title and the briefcase. That actually would be pretty interesting. But we have plenty of weeks to talk about that and discuss it, and I might change my opinion or my prediction as we get closer. Speaking of Jinder Mahal, he of course had his big Punjabi celebration on SmackDown, and this thing was a fucking circus. God damn. They had everything out there, dancers and drummers and this whole elaborate set and music and ceremony and all this shit. And it was good. I mean, it looked good. He came out with the title and the suit and the whole deal, and he's got the Singh brothers with him. Good to see that one Singh brother is alive. Jesus. Randy Orton almost killed him on Sunday night, and still one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I mean, somebody almost dying isn't funny. It's just Orton's reaction to it that is still hilarious days later. But Jinder gets on the mic and just basically sums it up as, you know, I proved all of you wrong. You've hated me from the minute I got here. You hate my look and where I'm from and blah, blah, blah. You know, Jinder, like I said in my last commentary, what can you say about him? I mean, a lot of people are debating whether this was a good idea, whether this is a bad idea. Some people think putting the title on him is ridiculous. I'm of the opinion that the way it came off was ridiculous. Now, some people have been telling me that, hey, GoodMicWork, you don't always need a gradual transformation from a jobber to a main event level guy. Sometimes surprises are good. Sometimes out of the blue is good. Yes, you're right. You're 100% right. But it's the way they did this out of the blue. That was my big issue with it. I'm not a very big fan of Jinder being the WWE champion. Not because I'm against a new guy holding the belt. Not because I'm against Jinder personally. I wish the guy nothing but the best in his title run. It's just, he doesn't make the title credible. He doesn't make a believable champion right now because prior to this, he has been a complete fucking joke. He's been one step up from Hornswoggle. So I was of the argument, you should slowly build this guy, start giving him some victories on Raw against lower card guys, then mid-level card guys, and then eventually he's put in a number 1 contender match just for the hell of it, and he winds up winning it, and, you know, it's just a little bit more of a gradual transformation. Or, if you want to go the surprise angle, do the 1-2-3 Kid Razor Ramon thing. You know, why didn't they put him in a one-on-one match? Maybe prior to him getting traded, maybe before he got traded over to SmackDown on Raw, he goes one-on-one with Roman Reigns in the middle of the show in a random tune-up match for Roman Reigns. The fans are barely even paying attention to it because you know the outcome of this thing. But next thing you know, the match is going on for 8 minutes and Roman hasn't won yet. And what the fuck's going on? They even take a commercial break. And then they return, the match is still going on, and Roman Reigns goes for the spear, Jinder leapfrogs him, Roman hits his shoulder on the ring post full speed, and he's in perfect position then for Jinder to grab him from behind and hit him with that shit-ass finisher of his, and then he pins Roman Reigns and upsets him in the middle of Raw in a meaningless match that the fans are barely even paying attention to, and you're like, holy shit, he just scored a clean upset over WWE's poster boy. WWE doesn't want to do that to Roman Reigns and beat him like that, so fine, put him on SmackDown and do it to Cena. Do it with somebody that shocks the audience, that, you know, they kind of put their hands on their head and their eyes pop out of their head. They're like, holy shit, did we just see that happen? Did we just see Jinder Mahal randomly randomly beat Roman Reigns clean? Did we just see Jinder randomly beat John Cena clean? Remember when Alberto Del Rio came back and beat Cena for the U.S. title when Cena was injured? You know, that was even kind of surprising. He just kicked him in the head and then pinned him. And you're like, holy shit. John Cena, the guy that kicks out of being shot, is getting pinned by one kick to the head. So if you had some sort of a surprising win like that, much like the 1-2-3 Kid, who was also a jobber, hit Scott Hall with a moonsault in the middle of a squash and pinned him, and next thing you know, a star was born. So I know there are ways to do the overnight push and the overnight transformation into a serious competitor, but putting him in that number one contenders match, I don't even remember what it was. It was a multi-man something or other, right? Fatal 5-way, fatal 6-way, six-pack challenge, some shit like that. And he just randomly won it, and it was just underwhelming. So tell the creative team to come up with something fun, something good, something that the fans will get behind or get interested in, or give Jinder the right kind of heat. Right now, touching on all these sensitive, sore nerves in people is just the wrong way to get heat, I feel. You know, the whole character and the whole package, I think, can work. I'm definitely not anti-Jinder. I don't hate the Jinder Mahal character. He does look good with the belt. He's got that little entourage with him. It's a very big presentation, and WWE is trying to get one of these other major characters over. I mean, Alberto Del Rio has left the company. It seems like over the years, WWE has always had a character, sort of like JBL, like Alberto Del Rio. And there's really nothing wrong with that. And I hope Jinder continues to get heat. And I hope the fans are hating him, but not hating him because they think he's a joke of a champion, which makes me think that now maybe his title run will last a little bit longer, because if he drops it right away, the fans are going to be like, yeah, see, we told you, you're a fucking loser. But if he holds it and he keeps proving fans wrong, and he successfully defends the title at a pay-per-view, then another pay-per-view, then another pay-per-view, then it's like, holy shit, this guy's made. So I still think there's a chance that they can bounce back from this in the eyes of the fans, and I'm hoping that they do. I'm not shitting on this just for the sake of shitting on it. To me, I thought him winning the belt and becoming number one contender in the way that he did wasn't that interesting, is all it was. To me, it wasn't as shocking to see him win that number one contenders match. To me, it would have been much better if he went out there and randomly beat a top guy completely clean, shocked the hell out of the fans, give the guy some confidence, and then he goes out there and wins another match, and then he wins another match. To me, there could have been much more creative ways to get the fans to take notice of this guy instead of just saying or deciding, we're going to push this guy and put the belt on him, and that's our plan, and then we'll figure out how to write that later. You know, you got to come up with some ideas, I think, first before you start making shit happen. And the WWE seemed like they were more concerned with the business effects of this push than how it's going to come off on TV. So, you know, yeah, I have my issues with it, but still, I mean, I'm on the fence. I'm not a big fan of him being WWE champion, but I definitely don't have, you know, there's people on very passionate on both sides of this thing. Some people are like, come on, give the guy a chance. Some people are like, fuck no, this is retarded. And I'm kind of right in the middle, to be honest with you, as usual, right? But as far as his match with Randy Orton at Money in the Bank, I guess you got to go with Jinder at this point. I don't think Randy Orton's going to be winning it back. I think Jinder will keep the belt. And then, do they have a July pay-per-view or not? Do they have one more before SummerSlam? I guess I should have looked that up before I started recording, but Jinder, you know, if he's going to drop it in the near future, it would probably be SummerSlam. If not, they might hold it off until Survivor Series. And maybe whoever beats him for the title loses the title to the Money in the Bank winner. Maybe the Money in the Bank winner doesn't even cash in against Jinder, especially if it's a heel. If Baron Corbin wins the Money in the Bank, I don't know if they're going to have him cash in on Jinder, unless they want to turn him babyface. I mean, Jinder loses the belt that way to Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin is going to be an instant superstar, because for the most part, the fans hate Jinder. We'll have to see how long it runs, but in my initial commentary, I think on Sunday, when I talked about Backlash, when Jinder won, I initially said that his reign was going to be short. Now I'm starting to think it's actually going to be kind of long. So you might have to get used to this Jinder Mahal character, and if you guys hate it, well, I guess that sucks for you. Watch NXT and Raw. Is my only advice there. The match of the night on SmackDown, again, was Breezango versus the Usos. I loved their match at Backlash, and this one was set up in a really fun, interesting way as well. Now, they both had one-on-one matches against the Usos. Breezango was humiliated and depressed that they lost to the Usos at Backlash, so they show up backstage at SmackDown and turn in their badges to Shane McMahon, and they say that they don't belong here. And Shane says, yes, you do. You guys proved a lot last night, and you're awesome, and we don't want you to leave. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you both one-on-one matches tonight against the Usos. Fandango, you're going to take on Jimmy, and Tyler Breeze, you're going to take on Jay. Now, in each one of these one-on-one matches, much like Backlash, It was such a good combination of funny and serious. They got all the silly bullshit out of the way in the one-on-one matches. Tyler Breeze beat Jey Uso with a roll-up in about 10 seconds when Fandango got on the ring apron and started squirting Uso with a water gun. And that's another thing they had backstage was the water guns or the squirt guns. And I remember when Fandango handed it to Shane, he's like, careful, it's loaded. And Shane ended up giving it all back to him. They bring it out to the ring and the squirt gun costs Jey Uso the match and Tyler Breeze got the victory. Well, they went right in to the Fandango versus Jimmy match. This one went a little bit longer but ended in the same way. Tyler Breeze is out there in a costume and the wig and he's running around. He's being chased around by Jey. Jimmy gets distracted by this, tries to get his hands on Tyler Breeze, turns his back, and Fandango is able to roll him up for the 1-2-3 as well. So Tyler Breeze and Fandango both won their one-on-one matches against the Usos. And then they get on the mic and they say, hey, since we just beat you, how about you give us a rematch for those tag team titles? And the Usos are like, fuck yeah, let's do it right now. We're pissed. And the two teams go in there and have a fabulous match. And that's one of the things I'm most impressed with WWE when it comes to these two teams. Tyler Breeze and Fandango are silly and ridiculous as hell, but they're balancing it out with some good matches. At Backlash, we saw the mop and we saw the old lady costume and we saw all of that, but it was also tied in with an excellent tag team match. And then this week on SmackDown, you get a bunch of dumb shit in the one-on-one encounters, and then they tear the house down in a tag team title match, which the Usos won. They successfully retained in a really good match with some good spots and a really fun finish, and they pinned Fandango at the end. I think he hit his top rope leg drop on one of them, and then the other one came off with a top rope splash onto him and got the pin. And it was a really good, hard-fought, impressive title defense by the Usos, and I loved the match, and I thought it was my favorite match of the night. So who knows if Breezango will get another opportunity. They might at Money in the Bank. Maybe they work one more time at the pay-per-view, and that's when they get the titles. They're inching closer to those belts, so if they have any chance of winning the titles at all, I think it has to come at Money in the Bank. Speaking of 10-second losses, we also saw Sami Zayn beat Baron Corbin in about that amount of time. They just get going on their match and lock up, and Sami's able to roll him up and pin him surprisingly and win the match. And Baron Corbin snaps, goes absolutely ballistic, beats the hell out of Sami Zayn all around the outside of the ring, throws him over the barricade, beats him up into the crowd. I mean, just beats the shit out of him until Sami needs to be stretchered out of the arena. So the issue between those two guys is not over either. And they're both involved in Money in the Bank, so they're not going to be able to have a one-on-one match for a while unless they do it on SmackDown. Sami Zayn might be taking a couple weeks off here to sell the injury. But if they now have a huge issue, maybe that would rule out Baron Corbin winning the Money in the Bank as well. I mean, maybe it goes to AJ, because in that main event, don't forget, Shinsuke Nakamura pinned Kevin Owens. So maybe Shinsuke moves on to face Kevin Owens and feud for the U.S. title, and AJ winds up winning the briefcase with Baron Corbin and Sami Zayn being involved in their shit. So, the only one I'm completely ruling out, I guess, is Dolph Ziggler. But there's some interesting dynamics and speculation going on with all 6 of these guys right now, which makes the Money in the Bank match itself pretty interesting, if you ask me. And finally, the only other thing I have written down for SmackDown is Charlotte and Becky Lynch defeating Natalya and Carmella in a tag team match. And then they're arguing backstage later on with Shane McMahon as well, and Shane makes a fatal 5-way elimination match next week to determine the new #1 contender for the women's title. And I think the 5 competitors are the entire welcoming committee and Becky Lynch and Charlotte, I think. So the winner of that will go on to face Naomi at Money in the Bank. And as far as the losers go, which will be all of them, there's been some rumors. Some of you have sent me tweets, and I've seen a couple of online reports that they are going to do a women's Money in the Bank ladder match this year. That's the early rumor. I don't know if it's true or not. Multiple sites are reporting this, so it could very well happen. And I've talked about this in the past. Somebody actually asked me this question in a Q&A not long ago if I thought they should ever do a women's Money in the Bank match, and I was all for it. For the most part, I was a little concerned with how it would come off compared to the men and everything, but hell, they've done a Hell in the Cell match, so why not Money in the Bank? This might be a good year for it. Give it a shot, see how it goes. If it sucks, don't do it next year. So that's a wrap on this week's episode. I'll be back next week with your Raw and SmackDown review again, and I will also include Extreme Rules predictions, and we'll talk more in depth on Money in the Bank and the current card and how that whole pay-per-view is shaping up. So you guys have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much for listening and all of your support, and I hope to talk to you real soon. Until next time, peace.